Welcome to Ernest Jennings Ford birthplace, better known as Tennessee Ernie Ford. This was his little birthplace. This was his favorite little house here in Bristol. Many times he would come back here and he would visit the little house, and he would knock on the door and they would open the door, and who would be standing there but Tennessee Ernie Ford? Who knew that Tennessee Ernie Ford was born in this little house? But this was always his favorite little house. He called this his little birthplace. He grew up over here on Windsor Avenue in a house down near the Parkway that has since been torn down to make a parking lot for the car dealership down there. But that was his boyhood home, but this was his favorite little house, and lots of times he liked to come by and visit this little house. We don't have anything that was actually original to the house, but we do know that they did have a piano. They did have a cranked Victrola over here that they would have played music on. Ernie said he remembered a big Davenport that was in this room. And a Davenport is what we call a futon today, but they were a little bit larger. They were a nice big piece of furniture, and they made into a bed. Possibly this is where Ernie and his brother might have slept. We're not really sure, but we didn't have a chance to talk to Ernie much about the house. We bought it in 1990 and was making it our headquarters for the Historical Association. And when Ernie was back here in April of 1991, we had told him about the house, and he was all excited. And we really needed to sit down and talk to him about the house, but we didn't get a chance to do that. And of course, then he died in October of the same year. So we had to just go by and figure out what it might have looked like here in 1919. The next room we're going into, most of the stuff that has been donated to us was given to us by his youngest son, Brian. Most of the pictures and other artifacts was all from Brian. Right here is Ernie's family. There's his mom and dad in both of these pictures. This was out here in the Holiday Inn back when it was out here on the Parkway with his boys and his parents. Here's Brian and Buck. Brian is the one that has donated most of this to us. Brian was very much like his dad. He had the same kind of sense of humor, and he did sing. He even tried to get started in a singing career, but it really didn't take off, I think, because his dad was too much of a figure. But the boys have always stayed behind the scenes. They always stayed in the musical field. Buck was in the TV series Christy. That was about a young girl from western North Carolina back in the 1900s that came over into East Tennessee in the mountains to teach school. And he was a mountain man. Lots of times you would see Buck even on TV commercials. So yeah, they have stayed quite active in the music building. Unfortunately, Brian died about 10 years ago, so Buck is so good about helping us with the house. He always comes whenever we have anything that we're doing special, so we're always excited to have him back in town, and he always can tell us many stories about his dad. Over here, we've got radio equipment from WOPI. When Ernie was in high school, he was an announcer at WOPI, and so we're real lucky to have a lot of the equipment from WOPI, especially the tubing. We have all the tubing that we probably can never get replaced again. And here we have how they used to do a radio show, how they recorded it. Ernie here with his first boss, but the picture down here is of the map of the highway that's being built from Bluntfield out towards the racetrack. And when I told him that that was going to be named the Parkway for Tennessee Ernie Ford, you talk about getting excited. He said, I'll tell you a secret. He said, when I used to go down to Augusta, Georgia, to the golf tournament, and we'd go down that big highway that was named for Bobby Jones, and he said, I would secretly say, I wish I had a highway named for me. And so when we told him about this, I think he was more excited about the highway than he was knowing that we had bought his house to restore. But unfortunately, Ernie didn't live long enough to see the highway completed, but his sons were here for the dedication of the highway. We have the newspaper clippings from when Ernie was here for the rededication of the Paramount Theater. And then this newspaper clipping is when Ernie died. Over here we have his Presidential Medal of Freedom that he was presented by Ronald Reagan. He is here with the Ford family, and he's got here with President Bush. And here are a lot of his other awards that he had received over the years. And a poster here that Wall-O-Mat, never heard of a Wall-O-Mat. It was a chair. This poster was left out on the front porch. I don't know who left it, but somebody left it for us, and we're so pleased to have it. It shows definitely 1970s clothing. Over here on these pictures, I love to look at this little picture up here of Ernie when he played the trombone. I think he looks like a little boy from India with his little hat on his head. This is a picture when he worked at WOPI. Picture of he and his wife Betty. This is when he was getting off the plane down here at Tri-Cities Airport on Piedmont Airlines with his kids. He was back here in town for a parade. You can see him in the car. And these are the many celebrities that he was associated with. You have Minnie Pearl, you have Doris Day, Bing Crosby, Reggie Jackson, Dobie Gillis, Minnie Pearl again. You have Perry Como, and we have never decided what his name is. And Molly B from his TV show. He had a TV show in the late 1950s, around 1959, and another show in the mid-60s. He was also known as Cousin Ern from the I Love Lucy shows. We got a plate here that depicts that. On November the 4th, 1996, Bristol proclaimed a proclamation of Tennessee Ernie Ford Day. And this little replica right here was made by someone over in the coal fields to replicate 16 tons, which is made from a lot of the railroad ties and things. This little picture right here is where he had written a little note saying how much he had enjoyed his friends here in Bristol, and that he was sorry that he could not make it in for whatever it was that he was supposed to be here for. Ernie had a book down here. He said, "This is my story, this is my song." That's really a fun book to read because it tells a lot of his stories. It talks about how his brother Stanley used to trick him to jump off the back porch at his house down here on Windsor Avenue. Those were really fun stories to read. Over here, you can see where he was also in the Army Air Corps, which now we call the Air Force, and he was back for a reunion, and these pictures depict him being there for the reunion. He was training to be an air fighter pilot during World War II, and he was stationed out in California and spent the entire time out in California, and by the time he got all of his training in, war was over. And he had met his wife Betty at the base there, and they were married, and they came back here for a short time, and being that she was a California girl and we're a bunch of hillbillies back here, they decided to move back to California. And Ernie said they bought a little ranch, which we probably would have said they bought a little farm. And he said, we were so daggone poor. He said, we lived in the chicken house. And he said, I had to get a job. And so being that he had radio experience, he was able to get a job at the radio station. And of course, back in the 40s, that's all the entertainment we had. All of our shows came across on the radio. And so he had a show that he did a lot of country animal sounds, which was real popular. And he would sing along a lot of times with the music. And so they were getting all these people calling in, who is this that's singing along with all this music? Really loved his baritone voice. So he was invited to come and be on some of the live radio shows that they were doing singing, and that's how he got started. So by the late 1940s, he already had a deal with the record company. And then by 1955, he had 16 tons and he was on the map. And Ernie traveled to England. We were, when we had our sesquicentennial, we had the mayor from Bristol, England, which is our sister city, and he was here, and they didn't realize that Ernie was from Bristol. When they found out, they got all excited because they said he was huge in England in the 1950s because of the big baritone voice, because they didn't have anybody that could sing like Ernie did. So they were really excited to come and visit the house and see that this is where Ernie had lived. So some of the things that he sponsored, which was Chase and Sanborn. I think a lot of people still remember Martha White, and He was also in, he was quite a hunter. He and his boys hunted quite a bit, so he's in a hunting magazine here. The only thing that's really original to the house that we know of is this little tub. And Ernie said he did remember scrubbing off in this little tub. So we do know that they probably did have indoor plumbing at this time. Everything in here, we tried to replicate what it might have looked like in 1919. We have a little, instead of a wood-burning cook stove, it's a coal-burning cook stove. And of course, the sink and the little table here. But we did not have room to bring an icebox. We would have normally had an icebox, but the lady who had owned the house previously had pulled this wall out right here, so she had made this room a little bit smaller. So we just hung some ice tongs over here to show that they would have probably had an icebox. This would have been his parents' bedroom. The boys, we're not sure. Maybe they slept here in the middle room, or they might have slept on the big futon out in the living room. We're not really sure, but this we know was in the parents' bedroom. The little table right here is actually a table from the Ford family. Back when Stanley and Ernie were able to close out their parents' house, they had an auction, and a lot of the stuff was auctioned off what they didn't want to take home. And this little table was given back to us by a family that probably at some point bought that little table in an auction. I think it's a little writing table.